and view all these videos. They are all there. So, since this is our final session for the year, today's conversation, I would say, will be more reflective and interactive. So, instead of us introducing a new topic, I would like for us to, pause, look back, and share what has impacted us the most, what challenges we faced, and I would say that the lessons that we carried on. Okay, the lessons that we carry into our new phase of parenting. There's a lot that we've learned. Some of them we were not aware, some of them we are aware, but we did not know the benefits of it. Some of them too we already knew, but we've added more knowledge into it. So if anybody wants to share, if you have any question from any of the sessions, or any clarification, any suggestion, any contribution, the line is open. Tonight is a night of reflection, so please let's interact with each other. So the line is open if anybody wants to share a word. Or should I mention names? Mrs. Kunadu,
Mhm. I'm here.
I'm waiting to know.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Um, yeah, so one of the sessions, I think the last session that we had on parenting regrets, I've been thinking a lot about that whole session. But one point that I want to get across, believe that because of the type of trauma that parents have gone through, raising their children up, they tend to kind of pour that same or channel that trauma or project it onto their children. We may not, directly or indirectly. Um, I say this because I kind of witnessed that from my parents. Um, I think growing up, they had a very challenging lifestyle. And so, because of how life kind of took certain detours in life, bringing up their children, there's certain type of, I guess, the way they will enforce some things on us to do. I guess it pleased them because they didn't have that opportunity. So I just been thinking about it, but I wanted us to kind of, I wanted to hear other people to see if it's something that I'm the only one who's experiencing it, or if it's if other parents have noticed that as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mrs. Kunadu. Yeah, honestly speaking, that parental regret session that we had, it brought a lot of memories and a lot of things into mind that I was thinking about certain things as well. And I asked myself some of the questions that you were mentioning right now. Because I was like, if our parents knew what they were, how they were, bringing us up or nurturing us, was going to have a negative effect. I don't think they will take us through certain things. And just to share a story about what you were saying, I was sitting there, I was like, my parents left back to America. I think for my dad, it was about a year or so. I was 1 year, but my mom, I was about 9 years or 10 years. And living with the extended family, the kind of nurturing that they took me through, it strengthened me. It built me in a certain way that today, at that time, I would say that I wasn't happy about it, but today it has really helped and shaped my life. But I was asking myself, so if I was living with my parents, right, and me knowing how my parents are, I don't think I would have gone through some of the pains that I went through that shaped me today. They would have, I mean, pampered me. They would have done everything for me, and at the end of the day, I would not be able to be the kind of person that I am. So sometimes I would say that for me, I don't think they are intentional. It's life. Sometimes it happens, and from what you said, I'll open the line for others to share as well. But from what you were saying, some people did not know the way they were just being parents, just passing on whatever that they had onto us. Some also did not even know that they were doing harm because they didn't know. Some people were just trying their best. I don't think that if they really knew what they were doing, if it will have negative effect on us, they would do it. But in their mind, I believe that they were being good parents. I mean, whatever that we are doing, just like whatever we are passing on to our children, I don't think we have negative intentions about it, but we think that we are doing it in the right way that we know. So, hence the reason why we talk about reacquiring knowledge, learning a lot, because whatever that you don't know, you pass on the same thing that you know. So, as parents, it's good for us to learn a lot. And whatever generation you find yourself in, don't try to focus on the old one and just say, this is how I was brought up, but I'm going to bring up my children the same way. That is when the conflict begins. So, if we are able to acquire knowledge all the time, understand the present generation, how they behave, how they do things, and be intentional, I think that will really, really help us a lot with that dynamics. But I would love to hear other people's opinion as well. So, if anybody wants to chip in from what our sister said. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Um, Tonight is a night of reflection, so we are all sharing from. I mean, from February we'll be having parenting series, so we are all highlighting on the things, some of our takeaways, and some of the things that we need clarification. Some of us are sharing contribution takeaways. So please feel free and share. Mr. Kanta, you can go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, it's okay. So I just wanted to emphasize on a couple of things that has been said in terms of the example and the question that came. And from my take out, like my experience was somewhat similar to yours, but in a little bit of a different world. So what I also understand is some of us have all gone through a certain level of trauma as parents, or growing up, some knowingly and unknowingly, and it has shaped us a certain way. So some of those traumas that we go through as when we were growing up, as our parents were nurturing us, things that they were doing to us, that they in their intention was the best thing that they could give to us, because most of the parents were actually acting with the best of intent. It's rather unfortunate that the receiver end of it is always going to be different, because we are living in a different day and time, and we see things different. So one of my biggest take is from the parents' perspective, to have or seek therapy, right? Though we have gone through or we have experienced what we have experienced, sometimes we need to have that analysis into our lives and how what has shaped us to become what we have become. And if we don't like it, and we see something has shaped us wrongly, because we can't always say all of them created a negative impact. Some of it, or some of it actually created a positive impact, which has shaped us to become who we are positively. But then there's always going to be the negatives, where it has caused us or is still causing us some pain. And I think that is where we, as in our culture, we don't really seek counseling. So I always bring up the concept of counseling today. I haven't actually, I didn't know it until I seeked one myself. So sometimes there are embedded pain and struggles and what scientists will call today PTSD, which is lingering in your background. And whilst you are trying to nurture your children, you exert that fear and that challenges that you went through onto your children, not understanding that your children are not living your life. They are not living in your timeline. They are not living in the space and time that things are happening. So whilst we are trying to tell them, and a big example came back, I think you and I was talking about it, about the technology world and how we are restricting, or sometimes we want to restrict our children when it comes to that. I think I will emphasize on that later as my question though. But just to emphasize on the parenting part of it, we need to seek counseling. We need to try to undo some of those pain so that when we are dealing with our children, we can deal with them with understanding, with knowledge, and without that boundary or whatever that incident or situation had caused us to become. So I think counseling is a great advice for most parents, especially for those of you who have not actually had children yet. Because if you can undo those things and figure those things out, then raising your children will be more intentional, will be more purposeful, because you understand that I'm not raising them to become me, but I'm raising them to become their best self so that they can function in society in their best way, not because I was brought up this way, because I was taught this way, because my mom and dad did me this, so we have to impact the same thing on them. They don't. I was making an example the other day when I was punishing my own kids about me trying to take, TVs from them. And I remember when I had to go stand behind somebody's window to watch TV. I didn't have a TV in my house. They have 4 TVs in their house. Can we expect them to relate the same way? It does not matter how you paint a picture. It is not going to seem the same because they do not understand that. I remember when a phone, even to have a phone, was in a box. Today, they have mobile phones that have screens bigger than some of the TVs that we used to watch before. Can we relate to that? When I used to go to school, we used to have a blackboard. I don't think any of my children have seen a blackboard before, because their boards in their school are actually white, and they do not write with chalk. They write with colored markers. So can we understand that concept that we are trying to teach them? And we as the parents, if we are not intentional, if we are not purposeful about what we are doing, we get that wrong. And then we start teaching them, no, don't do this, no, do that, and beat them and punish them certain ways where sometimes it doesn't even apply. So I understand the traumas that we went through and that was impacted onto us by our parents. 1, we need to seek forgiveness. 2, we need to, get therapy. But let's make sure that we do not pass those on onto our children as we are raising them. The other part of my big highlight was to be something that we were saying about technology, and that I agree to controlling the kids because sometimes the exposure is too much. But at the same time, we also need to understand the time and place where we are living in. I don't know about all of you, but I know I grew up in the IT field. So that was my major, really. So I learned a little bit about these things. And I foresee where the world is going. Because I remember 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when I was graduating from college, things were different. Things were a lot different. What we thought technology could do is not what today's AI is doing. And we were told and predicted that this was going to take over our lives, and somewhere along the line, it was going to replace us. So the only way to actually compete 10, 20 years from now is to outsmart it or perform as well as it is performing. And the only way to do that is through exposure. So in as much as we are afraid of what it can become, we should also bear in mind that taking it away from them is also crippling these children as we are raising them. Some of you in the educational sense, and I know some of you are teachers and you've dealt with other, siblings or other students in that nature, would understand that the way we are teaching kids in school, the more exposure that they get through technology, it makes them smarter. Not necessarily smarter in their ways of books or, like how they articulate certain things, but it's their way of thinking has evolved drastically. So you are looking at a child, my little son, who's just 9, can do things on the computer that I cannot sometimes imagine a 9 years old doing. My little 5-year-old or 4-year-old little girl knows passwords and can twist up little things in the tablet that I cannot even understand how they got to that, because I don't expect them to do that. But that is their world. And the only way to sometimes for them to compete is for them to get to that level of competing with that technology. So sometimes we just need to keep an eye on it. We need to nurture them through it. We need to, guide them through the process of learning these things, but not necessarily try to restrict them from their abilities. Because in a few years, excuse me to say, a pen and paper will become scarce for you to find because it is not tangible anymore. I don't know if you look at the world as we're growing, but I remember when the only way to get news was to sit behind a TV or a radio and listen to the 3 o'clock news and the 6 o'clock news and the 9 o'clock news. Today, news is happening as we speak. An incident happened at the airport the other day, and before the airline could even make a phone call to the news station to say, let's publicize this, it was over 1 million viewers already knew about it. People were actually calling me about what was happening at the airport even before I could even get a statement out. So that goes to tell you that technology is here and it's here to stay. And we need to really look into how we get our children, our families, our future to look at it and understand it and be able to compete. Because if not, they will become the warehouse workers as managers of the world is going to become IT or the people who allow their children to be exposed to those things. So that is my little advice on that technology field, and also on the parenting side of it. With what I said, if anybody has any comments or anything like that, I would really take on those questions as well because I'm here for a little while. But that's my little take on Mami Christie. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kanta. Thank you. Mrs. Knedu, it's your, was it a contribution or a question? Some form of a question. Are you okay with it? And the line is open if anybody wants to contribute to it as well. And then for the technology part, if you want to add up to it, you can also add up. The line is open.
Yes, my question was answered. Well, partially. Because most African parents, um, one, may not always want to do therapy. I think sometimes they themselves are not even aware of what exactly they're doing to their children. And I think, Ms. Okanta, you mentioned very well that we have to be intentional about how we respond to our children or the things that we say to them, because it can leave either a scar or make an impact in their life. Um, so sometimes you realize that when you're talking to the children, they will say, "Oh, my mom doesn't love me, my dad doesn't like me because of A, B, C, and D." For all they know, they see what you're doing to them, but probably the parents will say, "Oh, what?" May the parent may say, "This was nothing. No, I've been through worse." So I think we have to be intentional on how we respond to our children or how we talk to them and how we express ourselves to them. Also, some parents like to impose their wills on their children. If a parent, for example, some parents who want their children to be like a doctor or a nurse or insisting that they become a lawyer, they they will do whatever it takes to like kind of impose their will on their children. Um, so sometimes the child will grow up feeling as though I'm walking in my father's shoes or I'm walking in my mom's shoes. How do we deal with that? As a parent, yeah, we do want the best for our children. And from physical and from just analyzing what the trend is in terms of like probably building wealth, if one career is really, if one particular career will help a child, live a prosperous life, should we really force that child to live in the shoes or live in the dreams that we want for ourselves? So another question is still Kanta.
Wow. Okay. I would have left it to the rest of the team to see if anybody else want to pitch in first. So let me leave it to the other parties on here. If anybody has any word or suggestion or advice, if not, then I can tackle it.
Okay. Thank you so much. Uh, anyone who wants to share?
Can you repeat your question, please? I'm sorry.
Yes. I was I was asking that is it okay for parents to impose their dreams and goals on their children? Like if they at one point wanted to be a lawyer, a doctor, a nurse, and they were not able to achieve it, rather they're forcing their children to kind of achieve those goals. So, is it okay for parents to do that? Mhm. It's okay for parents to force their children to walk in their shoes.
Okay, thank you for repeating it. I don't think it's okay for any parent to impose their goals, especially with careers and stuff, on their children. Because we've learned here that everybody is unique. Everybody is unique. So as a parent, you have to help your child to discover what they want to do. And even sometimes you can easily tell. You will have a child who is very good with their hands. You have a child who is very good with memory, analytical, mathematical, and all that. So if you see that in your child, you have to help them to develop it. You cannot impose your goals. You may not be able to even accomplish the goals for yourself. Why do you want to impose it on a child? So I would say as parents, we shouldn't do that. We should, as the children are growing, we should seek to find out what they are good at and encourage them to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lady Na. And I think just to add to what Lady Na said, I think one of the sessions that we had, if I quite remember, I think it was with also for Esmond, and it was about I think how to speak your child's love language or something, and I think this question came up, and we gave a whole lot of scenarios and contributions, but I think one of them that resonated most was we understanding how our children, I mean, receive certain information and how we also um, how to express love to them to help build them. So instead of us, let's say sometimes the parents have good intentions about, let's say, oh, nursing career, it's easy for you to find a job, but let's say if you do psychology, it's very hard to find a job with just bachelors. So instead of us to impose that you have to be a nurse. We can share, explain, and then have a conversation with them, let them know where or why we are saying what we are saying. And even if they still want to pursue their passion, that's fine, but they can still have that career path that will help them based on the explanation and the communication that you've had with them. At least if they understand from that point, it will help a lot more than we imposing, because if someone forcing you to do something is different from understanding and then you acting on. So I think from that session, that was one thing that I took off from, that I wanted to add up to it. So anyone else can share as well. I think someone was about to talk before
That was really me. Trying to go back to Auntie Debbie pointing it at me, but I think Lady Na and yourself actually just opened it up a little bit. The answer to it is what you and I both know it is wrong, because it is wrong because it was done to us and it didn't sit well with us. And the fact that we saw that means there's something wrong with it and it needs to be addressed. Like Lady Na said, the best thing to do is to actually analyze the child, understand where the child is coming from, know their talents, because each and every one of them, as she said, has a unique gift that God has given them. We all have a purpose to play. And sometimes I know, as much as we teach the Bible and everything else, sometimes we look at it as in this is religious stuff. And then when we come to reality, we separate ourselves. But it is the fabric of life. It tells us directly that each and every one was created uniquely for a purpose. So we have to understand, and I don't think this is the time and place for me to actually teach it, but what we need to understand is they have a purpose in life, in our time, in their age, to do something. And that something is not something that we as parents can always identify and guide them, especially when we are not led by the Spirit and we are by greed, which is how I'll term it. Because we look at it as, there's a couple of jobs that if you do, you will become successful, and this is what we want in our family. Or sometimes we always go with, my mama did this and it didn't work for her, so you cannot do it. Well, your mama's luck is not your luck. And you not being able to deal with it was because your father didn't have the means to provide for you the educational level that you needed to achieve. That has nothing to do with your child today going through it. So child should be able to explore their own self. And I think that is the biggest of our African culture perspective there, because we do not know how to really, or some of us, not to say all of us, but we are not very good at analyzing our children very well, because we always look at the final goal of, if you become a doctor, you're going to be rich, or you're going to become wealthy, as in the statement that you made. And you use the word wealth. And wealth is not measured based on the amount of dollars sitting in your bank account. My wealth is different from your wealth, and your wealth is different from her wealth. So your daughter can be extremely happy, successful, joyful, despite the fact that she only has $100 sitting in her bank account. That is not for you to judge. It is for you to make sure that God blesses her with her heart's desires. What we choose to do is because we don't want to go through the pain of having to take care of them for a longer period of time. We try to get them to make money so that they will get out of our houses, so that they will get out of our space, so that they will go and do their own thing and not having to worry. And then there comes the other part of something that I was learning a while back. Most of our past and how we, African culture or the Black culture, we always raise our children so that they can raise us in our old days. That is our concept. So because of that, we don't spend time into ourselves. So we put everything into them, no investment, no challenge, because we see them as all our investment. But that is not for us. They are not our bank accounts. They are not our treasury bills. They are not supposed to be your 401k. They are supposed to be God-given gifts to you for you to nurture them, grow them, raise them the best way you can with God's help, because God is the only one who has the purpose for them. So see God. If anything at all, I think we should be keeping the children in the church a little bit longer, teaching them more, showing them what God wants for them, and have them seek God's answers so that they can pursue their lives. Once we both in alignment and the child comes, like Mami Chrissy was saying, some of them can. There's a child that can say they can dance, and you ask yourself, boy, this girl can dance, but she can't put one and one together. And then we send our children and say, stop dancing, focus more on the learning. And then she goes to the class, sitting there, and while the teacher is saying 1 = 1 + 2 and this, she's thinking about dance moves. So she comes out making an F in maths, but making 99.9 on dance. And we still say, you're failing. She is not failing. Really, she is actually pursuing the gift that has been given to her. And sometimes people say, oh yeah, there's a difference between your gift as in this is a talent or something that you do as a hobby and what you need to do as a career. Yes, that actually exists. But only God can tell you that. I don't know it, and I can never tell you that. So unless you have prayed and you're coming from a 40-day fasting, like Jesus described this, and you are telling me that this is what God told you as a parent, I think we should let the children be and rather investigate their interests, their talents, their God-given purpose for them so that they can live their lives rather than we steering them in our ways. That is my take on it, though. I think somebody else may have a different opinion, but that's mine.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the line is open. Anybody who wants to share? We agree to disagree, so please.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I would like to share. Um, Actually, about this topic, I was talking to a friend a few months ago. I went to the gym while I was listening to our, I was on the line, and I told him what I was listening to. He's like, "Oh yeah, parenting, yeah," and somehow, but when it comes to like children and imposing your dreams on them, it's a thing that African parents love to do. And like we said, we're learning from our parents' mistakes so that we can do better. So, I mean, he made a good point, and he was saying that if it is something that you want your children to do, or if you see your child growing up and you see what they're interested in, you feel, you see that okay, they want to do this or they want to do that. I have a cousin who he said his son wants to become an aero engineer. He's working on it. Like he'll call you and be like, "Hey, how can I do this? How can I do that?" Like invest in that child's future. If you see something they want to do, most parents they like to be like, "What do you want to become?" And then you tell them and they won't understand what you even said or like what you're trying to go for. I remember when I was younger, I was like, "Oh, I want to become a pediatrician." And my parents were like, "Okay, that's good." They didn't know I was a doctor because I said pediatrician. So, like, when you see little signs like that from your children, oh, I want to be this, I want to be that, it is good to invest in that and start working them towards it little by little. Okay, maybe you could join this program, or if you do this, it will help you grow towards, your goal. If they ever change their mind, all right, time to refocus, and then you work towards that goal instead. But have, allow them to make that solid decision on their own. And then you, as a parent, you just help them to be able to achieve that goal. Because I personally, I can put myself on the spot right now. My niece, I saw her playing some games, and I love the fact that, after every game, like, I would hype her and be like, hey, Ness this, or Doctor that, or I think the other day she was doing hair, and I'll be like, oh, hairstylist this. I'm trying to get her ideas so that she can know, like, okay, I can do everything's an option. And then you just work them towards that little by little. I hope that made sense. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Abby. What you shared reminded me of something. Just to highlight on what you said about parents not knowing much about career, that sometimes we mention to them, and instead of them to invest, the keyword invest, they will just try to talk you out. I remember my brother said he wanted to be a civil engineer, and when he had a conversation with my dad, and I think he told my dad. So the following day I had a phone call from my dad, and he was like, now your brother said he's doing civil engineer, why don't you talk him through, tell him to be a doctor, blah 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 blah, blah. I was like, but do you even know what the civil engineer do? Do you know what they do, their job rate and all that? But the fact that it's not something common that he knew, he thought that it wasn't something that is worth it. So after explaining, and then he called my mom, and my mom was like, no, Kofi, you have to support the children. That's what he has to do. You have to support, pray that everything will go on well with him. It took him some time until I think he had a conversation with a friend of his, and that's when the friend was like, oh, it's a good field, oh, but that's when he came back, and then he was like, oh, I didn't know that it was a good one, oh, then let's encourage him. Then so sometimes it's the lack of knowledge. If they don't know, they tend to think that it's not one of the common ones, so they will not agree. So sometimes with the parents, that's why it's good for us to learn, and at the same time with the children too, sometimes we need to calm down and then explain certain things to them as well, honestly speaking, because they don't know, they will try to talk you out of it. So we need to have patience, and then also help them out, understand us as well. So thank you for bringing that up, and it's very good for us to invest. If your child wants to pursue a career that is not common to you, when we seek the knowledge, acquire the knowledge, let's invest in them. Let's ask, resources that they can learn, certain things that they can do, activities that they can do to even help them reach their full potential, so that we can help our children. So please, let's take note of that as well. Thank you. Thank you so much. The line is open. Anyone who wants to share? I think we have several topics on board right now. Okay, I see something on the chat. Parenting regrets. Child exposure to different careers is also important. It helps the child gain interest into different professions. Yes. Thank you so much, Mrs. Kunedu. So the line
Yeah.
is open. Anyone who wants to share?
Mami Chrissy, let me, and I think that is the same comment that Mami Kunedu just emphasized, and I think Auntie Abi also did the same thing. One of the scary pieces that we as parents also goes to is that we don't expose them to other things. So while some of the kids may not necessarily, and I think that's the biggest fear of most parents, I do it, and this is confession time for me. My daughter likes to dance for some reason, and so I keep bringing the dance thing. She likes music, dance, singing, things like that. And for some reason, because I do not see it as a career, sometimes it limits me from being able to support her in that manner. Though we are learning, and I'm trying to, so I don't restrict her from dancing, I just don't encourage it more. So maybe that's my takeaway that I'm also needing to work on. But I also want to open her up to other opportunities besides dancing. So most of the time, it's like we see the interest that they have, but as a kid, we all have interest. I remember when I was little and I was back home and we were talking about, there's a little game about who are you going to become when you grow up, and then we will sing it around and everything else. I've always wanted to become a pilot. That is my biggest thing. I may not be a pilot today. I did not become, but one of the key things that I found myself doing very well is working in aviation. I didn't end up being a pilot, but I ended up doing something on the airplane. So sometimes we can look at, like Auntie Abby was saying, I wanted to become a pediatrician, but I don't have to be a doctor to become a pediatrician. There's other levels within that field that our children can actually practice in and still be successful. I have no regrets not being a pilot, but I would have had a regret if I was a civil engineer, because my very first career, I remember when I was taken to school, and my mom has selected me because all my parents, my brothers, everybody have engineering degrees. So it was automatic. You also have to become an engineer. So my first career choice that was selected for me was to become a civil engineer. I didn't like it. They sent me into auto mechanics as engineering. I didn't like it. I went to the class and I cried as much as I can, and they took me out and put me into IT. Today, I have IT degrees, 2 of them, but I can tell you I haven't used them for more than 2 years of my whole career. The 2 degrees that I achieved was not what I became, but because I had a childhood dream, and every time I end up finding myself around airplanes, around things, it's just a certain level of feeling. I can wake up every morning and go to work without cry. But I went to work in a pharmaceutical company. I hated it. I went to work doing something as some IT. I dread going to work, even though they were paying twice as much. So it's not always about the money that they are going to make. It's about supporting them that they can find where they fit in. And I believe that through everything else that I have done, God have found my purpose and have utilized me. If I was to stand here and tell you about my testimonies, about the places that I've been and the things that I have done in my craziest job that is not a doctor field, maybe, I don't know, but you will call it coincidence. I will call it God's way of using me to do what I needed to do at the time because I listened to him. So same thing. Let's listen to God more. Let's listen and explore a little bit more, expose our children to opportunities that they can explore for their careers and their career paths. And hopefully God has a plan. Trust in God the same way that we have faith for him to do things. And when we need him, we go to him with that faith level. We should have faith that our children will not fail, even if the only thing that he wants to do is to be a comedian. There are people that are actually comedians and they are the funniest and making the most money. They become actors. The opportunities come their way. Some of them are writing movies and producing right now. Those pathways we can never know. Only God knows it. So sometimes we need to be a little bit more receptive towards other ideas besides what is ours. I'm not saying that it's not difficult. It is not easy. I can tell you that. But that is how I believe that we should be approaching life sometimes, especially when it comes to our children.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Kanta. The line is still open. If anybody has any contribution, question, or any suggestion, we are still learning.
I just wanted to add something. As our children are growing, we should find out what their talents are, like you said. Sometimes their career and the talents or the the talent that they want to exhibit are 2 different things. So you can tell your child, I see that you love drumming at church. You always want to be a drummer, but instead of it being your career, is there any way you can choose something that will put food on your table and then do this as a hobby? As a hobby, you can easily, you can educate them on that level as well. Instead of letting them be like you said, a comedian. Hey, Ghana ni be na man back a comedian in America. Bruh. And now grow. It's not that the money is not there, but the job, no. Hey, you bet nefia no So you can tell your child, you know what? You have to get an employment, something that will give you finances to be able to pursue your comedy thing. So sometimes if you say that to the child will be like, okay, I'll do an engineer, whatever it is, and do it. But the money from it, I'll use it to fuel my comedy. But see, it's way what's a comedy? And I say we are in America. Some of the children are like, I want to play in an orchestra. I want to play the cello. How many people do you see them playing the cello? Successfully as a career, a career. So I will tell my child, you know what? I support you being doing the cello thing, I support you 100%. But is there any way you can add something to it to give you frequent money, like on all the time, so that we can also do this? Nah, hey, that is my point of view, Mom. Madam Asi.
Yeah, that's it. Lady Nat, look. So, bro, go ahead.
Yeah. I think, Lady Nat, I think I'm going to disagree with you because do you know this Ghanaian comedian Michael Blackson?
I was just about to talk about that. That is exactly who I was just about to talk about.
Yes.
What is
So
the percentage? You people have your master's degree. What is the percentage of Ghanaians being comedians in America? The percentage is 0.001.
No,
So I don't
that's
mind you doing the comedy. I would love it to see my daughter doing a comedy show and being popular on TV. But near the way doing a bad near can once them do. Who bet na me fear no comedy.
no.
We should look at
Mr. Paul, please go ahead, right?
I think Lady Nat doesn't really know who this person is. And I'm not saying your point is wrong, but I just disagree with you because we have a lot of people like, Michael Blackson, for example. This guy, all he does is comedy, okay? And he probably, do have some other businesses that he do, but that's what he's known for as a comedian. And you can't tell me with the money that he's making, he has to go do something else. A lot of times Ghanaians, as parents, we depend on statistics. We want to show off. Okay, my daughter is a doctor. My son is this, but that's not the only way to make money. Like if you are coming from making money aspect, then that's not the only way to make money. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Yeah, you just said it's not about money. Even this Blackson was a Blackson, yeah, okay. You see, he has other businesses. He knows that he cannot rely just on that one thing.
Exactly.
Actually,
So
he
those are
does.
children.
Actually, he does.
Yeah, you can whistle in America and make money. I don't care. That is your hobby. I will encourage you. But please do something too that will bring money. But I'm not going to impose mine on it, on the child. Somebody just said that you have 2 degrees, and sometimes you used to have an IT job or something that when you're going, you are dreading going. I won't impose, but I'll tell you, get something that will bring food. Food. You need that energy to go and do the comedy. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Kanta, you can take it from here.
I know, but the fact of the matter is, yes, as we are saying, Blackson actually has a degree in something else, but that is not where he's at right now. And I'm not saying that comedy is the most popular things to do to get rich or to be able to feel whatever it is. But it is also his career. And if you talk to him, he would tell you that he's always been a comedian. Even while he was in school, he didn't really believe in himself that he was going to become anything other than a comedian. And so with the support that he got, and today being able to land millions of dollars of a contract with Netflix and have a show and everything else, that I'm not saying that it's for everyone. The same way a doctor is not for everyone. The same way a nurse or an engineer is not for everyone. It may be for you and your child. It may be for me and my children. It may be for Mr. Blackson and his children. But their pathways are not predicted by us. So the one thing that I take from Lady Nat's, add on was the fact that sometimes we can say, yes, you have this talent. Yes, you have this dream. But are we ever in the place to say, my child want to be a doctor, and while he's going to become a doctor, let me introduce something else to him so that he would do that? We don't. We only focus on that aspect because we believe that is going to make him or her successful. The same example that I gave in my life, that I thought becoming, an engineer was not it for me. It wasn't going to make me successful. Yes, I would have made a lot of money, but success is not measured by the amount of dollars in your bank account. Success is when I have peace. I have harmony in my life. I have serenity in my life. I go to work and I feel joy about it. I could be making $2, but I feel great about what I'm doing. And that is for me. If I come ask you for $1 and you don't have it, that's great. That is the mindset that I'm taking. And I think that is what we as parents want to see our children successful. But whilst we are looking at success, we are looking at it from the wrong perspective. We're only looking at it from the monetary part of it and not the full entirety of what success actually is. So I can say the comedian is successful today. I can say Cedric the Entertainer is successful today. I can name several of them that were comedians, they were the class jokers, and has always become what they are going to be. And they are successful. Some of them failed. There are doctors who actually started off on the doctor field and still failed. So we trying to predict for the child where we want them to go, sometimes is the scary part. And I think that is where we all took it in the beginning when we were talking about parenting. But yes, I do agree with you to say, let's not always say, be a comedian. That's it. I have my own battles too. I'm telling you about my daughter who wants to dance and want to do fashion, and I don't see it. But that is a challenge that I have to work and learn my way around. So we have to put all the pieces on the table and work it, not just a specific angle or a specific thing and focus towards that. So that is how I feel about the situation.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I see iPhone, you've unmuted. Are you about to say something?
No, Chris, this is me.
What's up?
I was just, I was just enjoying the conversation, and I think yeah, I'm loving it. And I think about, I didn't come in early. I joined late, so but I heard we are talking about parenting and then career choices for our children, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
and then how to guide them to make the right choices.
Yes.
So it's here and there, right? Uh, we cannot be 100% right or 100% wrong. Sometimes your child can tell you that this is what I want to do, but it's up to the parents. You know your child better, and it's about you guiding your child as to the right path to take. Some of the careers that the children choose are just because their friends or their colleagues chose that career, and they feel like, oh, because my friend did this, I'm also going to do this. And it doesn't help our kids. So I can use myself as an example in school, like we all say in school, we wanted to be pilots, we want to do this, we want to do this. In school, I wanted to become an actor and a journalist, right? So I told my parents I wanted to be a journalist. And back in the days, you know how journalists were being brutalized back in the day. So my mom was like, my child cannot be a journalist. I'm like, I love reading. I love general arts. I want to be a journalist. I want to be an actor. And their perception was actors, the romance that they play in movies and stuff like that. So that is their perception. So my mom was like, and then when you, yeah, you can be an actor in my house. So, but by the grace of God, because they know me, they guided me on the right path and the right choice, the right career to pursue, and it has helped. So sometimes it's here and there. Your child can also come to you and tell you that, hey, I want to be an actor. Looking at your child and the career that the child is pursuing, can help develop that talent in the child for the child to pursue that gift that God has put in him or her. So it's about also parents being having that spirit of discernment to be able to discern whether that career choice that your child is putting across is the best for the child, and it also aligns with God's will for your child's life. Probably I'm saying God's will because maybe because I have that pastoral background, so I'll go into that direction. As parents, also we should pray for the spirit of discernment to be able to discern the right career choice for our kids when they come to us, because definitely they'll have conversation with us. Definitely they will come talking to us about certain things. So it's about us having that intuition, having that spirit of discernment to discern that indeed my child is on the right path. Can you imagine uh, Jesus being young with Mary, and then Jesus not be to fulfill his purpose. Jesus said, "Oh, I want to be the savior of the world," and then Mary said, "That shut up! You can't save us. You keep quiet. You can't do this." You understand? Or Gideon or Samson. We have so many people in the Bible that their parents helped them. It even goes ahead to even marriage. When I think Isaac was about to get married, the father told the servant, "Go to my father's home to choose a bride for my son." So we have to be discerned to be able to help our children to make the right choices when it comes to career. If not, they will have the careers that they want to do to bring them good money, but they may not be fulfilled. Somebody can be doing a good work, racking in millions of dollars, but it's never fulfilled. So it's about being fulfilled and being successful. And as Mr. Akanta was saying, success is not only just about money, it's about being fulfilled. You understand? You can have enough millions in your account and never be fulfilled. So that is my little contribution that I can add to it.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Now we know the person behind the iPhone.
You don't do me like that. It's not always me, please.
Thank you. Any more? I think Mabna was about to share as well. I don't know if it was a question or a contribution that she was about, but she was unmuted for a while. So I don't know if you have anything to share, or if it was by accident too, that's fine. But the line is still open if anyone wants to share, or if you have any question, something that resonated throughout the year that you want to emphasize on, the line is open.
Can I change the conversation a little bit into, maybe that's a challenge that I want to ask, and whilst we are all here, it seems like we also want to teach, but at the same time we also want to learn, and I'm learning more and more. And I think one of my challenges that I'm facing is something we talked about here, which is, punishment, or, sparing the rod in some cases. And I think recently I went through an experience with one of my children in regards to how they receive punishment. And so, long story short, we had a discussion here a while back about, how to properly punish a child and how to get them to understand. And I'm trying to have the conversation, but the child is not understanding. Maybe their mind or their brain is not digesting that information the right way. So even though I'm punishing them, they are not adhering to that punishment as a punishment. They look at it as me being mean and doing whatever, causing them pain, rather than you trying to correct them from an incident, even though the incident is being reiterated and narrated to them so that we are all on the same page, but it still doesn't sit. How would anybody approach such a situation, especially if the child is in that developmental stages of, between the 9 and 12 ages? Any ideas?
Thank you so much, Mr. Kanta. Please, any ideas? Please share and help
Can
us.
I ask a question, please?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any idea about the temperament of your child?
Yes, I have actually looked into that as well. And that is how I tailored my approach initially. So he's more like me in a sense. But
Do you mind telling us if that is okay with you?
I mean, I don't mind. So, Mami, Lucy, were you saying something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So I have a how do you call it? Mami, Chris, you know the terms better than I do in most of
It's
this.
more of choleric.
Choleric than
So
anything.
your child is a choleric. Okay.
So he is not always a choleric. That's the key point. He has that tendencies, and he's majority choleric, but he also has a sanguine behavior. So he's mixed in the middle of it. He is somewhat this, and sometimes he's not. He's very soft, but very hard-headed at sometimes. He's just like me. So, long story short, it feels like when you're approaching him, you have to approach him with softness, but at the same time, you can't be too soft. So you have to be a little bit hard, but you can't be too hard. And it's just a middle point. So how do you deal with and he's very intelligent. He is very articulative and he can speak his mind. So that also becomes he thinks it's always, there's always a reasoning behind how he behaves. So he's justifying his actions. And to him, those actions are right.
I learned something, and I learned it the hard way too. That when your child has sanguine tendencies, when you punish them, it gives them more attention. They want attention. So sometimes, if you're not careful, when you punish them, they see it as attention. And unfortunately, the attention can be positive or negative, regardless if it's positive or negative, they don't care. Regardless, so far as it's an attention, they love it. So if your child is more sanguine and they do stuff, you have to sometimes ignore at that moment. Wait till they are not doing. I was going to ask you details that is this thing is going on YouTube or whatever. So I don't want people to know so much about your private life. You have to wait till the incident is over. Then later you talk to the child, because most of the time they want attention from you. It is like when you're on the phone and your child needs an attention. Sometimes they just mommy, 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 and over permanent. Or sometimes they'll just throw something on the floor. And you're like, oh, why, oh, why? It is all attention. So sometimes it is the attention. If the child is a choleric, it's a different thing. Those kids, you can explain why you are doing what you're doing. I'm going to tell you, I told you, don't put the bottle near the laptop without covering it because it's going to spill. And if it spills and this happened, I'm going to do this to you. So you did that, so I'm going to punish you for that. That one, they understand the rationale behind the punishment. They are like learning. But if it is a sanguine, deliberately, they are going to do it just for you to be attentive to them. So that is what I was trying to find out. So when you are punishing these kids and they are more of a sanguine, it has to be different, because it's about emotional needs more than the learning itself. So you have to approach it more with emotions than one shall now bully you, then you're just punishing them. But if your child is more of a choleric, then you have to do with the clear and consistent rules and expectations. So that is the difference. And you have to be consistent with your method of, I won't say punishment, disciplining them. Gradually it will work. We have some kids, regardless of what you're going to do, they're going to challenge you. Take your pick and move on. That's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lydina. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. And I think we are trying. So yes, and I don't mind, sharing. That's why we are here. We actually like to open up stuff like that so we can all learn from it. So in as much as we also like to teach, we also like to learn from, the kinds of yourselves and everyone on the line. So thank you so much for the advice.
So you see the sex of the child, that also comes into play. If the child is a boy and a man is disciplining, it's different from a child is a boy and a mother is disciplining. It's two different things. If you throw in, they are close to 12, and then they have the hormonal thing going on, that's also a different ball game. So parenting is really tough. You have to be really sensitive about all those things, because the same thing that you will say, mommy will say it, and the reaction from the child will be different. So you have to really, really, really know your child, the buttons to push, their buttons, they are going to push your buttons. You have to really know all those things before you even approach them. I think you need like fasting and prayers before you even go in and try to fix anything. So let's keep on doing this. Because and number two, I don't even know what the child did. What type of punishment were you given? Was it a correct type of punishment? So it's a lot. But I hope this will help you. Thank you.
Oh yes, we learn from all kinds, and we seek all the approaches. I've tried, the talking. I've tried the physical punishment. Because it didn't work. We tried having conversations, and he's not getting that neither. So it's a little bit, but I don't want to. It's not necessarily to a specific thing. It's a generalized thing, which is ongoing. He's good, but he has these moments, and that moments is what we're trying to understand. Do I punish? Do I let go? Do I help him? How do I help him channel that energy? And his mindset is wired on I'm upset, so I need to get some sense of reaction, but nobody's giving me that attention, like you're saying. So all of that is a mixture, but
Yes.
there's no good way of
There's no one answer.
Yes, there's no one answer if I should put it like
Because sometimes you can even you call the child, let's make the rules in this house. So if this happened, what do you think we should do? You get them involved. Sometimes that helps them so that when you're disciplining them, they get it. They don't question you. They know because they help you make the rules. So they are so different, the kids. So if you think that child will benefit from that, call the child, make the rules with the child. Why now call your rules and so you get it. So there's no win-win here. I have one like that. So that's why I said this thing is anyway. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Nadina. And like I said, anybody else, because I introduce some of these topics as a subject matter, so we can actually look into it. If you have parenting issues, challenges that you're going through, I would also encourage, because like I'm saying, we learning from some of these things. I have tried X, I have tried Y, I have tried, taking away his toys. He's very creative. He'll make his own playtime and he'll do things. So taking away his toys is not necessarily solving the problem. I've tried, the punishment, beating him. I've tried, isolating him and being, time out and all of those things. They all work for different things, but they don't work for everything. So it's kind of difficult when we tailor in an approach, to deal with a child. And what I really wanted to emphasize here, even though I'm asking a question realistically, I also want to make a point that as a parent, when we dealing with children, we have to understand that there is no one way. So something that we might say here as to, oh, my child, was misbehaving in school, and because of that, I gave him time out, or I took his laptop, or I did something like that. That may have worked for my situation because the child interest is in that thing. But you need to assess your child and see where they also lie and what their interests are, and if they're even the same thing that feels like a punishment to them. Because sometimes you might take their laptop and they will find a little watch. Junior has a watch that he loves more than he likes his tablet because he can play games on it. So am I really helping him in that case by taking his tablet? No, he loves the tablet, but he can do without a tablet. Or sometimes me personally, uh, I'm actually a Gemini personally as well, so I like my space. So punishing me and giving me space sometimes doesn't necessarily feels like a punishment, because really you just gave me a reward instead of a punishment. So understanding your child, like Lady Na said, and I like the approach of the diagnosis sense, which came in the temperament, who the person is and what they are, before we start, I would say prescribing a way to deal with it. It's more of try to understand the child, try to dive deep into them. Sometimes it just means you have to study them for a little while. Some of them just like to be held, like you were saying, So we have to understand all of those things. I hold you, it doesn't work. I take your tablet, it doesn't work. I beat you, it doesn't work. What next? Maybe I need to take you to military school. Some of them will come out of military school being straight. Some of them will come out being, not straight. How do you approach it? So that is where we are talking about raising being a parent is dynamic, and it has to consistently remain dynamic. You can never sit and affix yourself into this is my child, so this is the way to take from them, or this is the way to raise them, because every situation is different and they approach things differently as well. So thank you all for the support and the learning opportunities that you've given us. And Mami Chrissy, I'll hand it over to you at this point.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Kanta, can I just give you another suggestion? Because I told you I
Sure.
have one like that.
Sure.
You know what I did? I handed that child over to my sister-in-law with the chair, no?
Mhm.
Because it looks like when you talk to these kids, they don't hear you. But the
Mhm.
same thing, I'll tell my sister-in-law.
That's somebody
My
else.
sister-in-law will
Mhm.
say it, and I go, "Oh yeah, auntie, yeah." They are smart kids. But this child from birth, you give the time out. She's like, "Mommy, is it over yet? Oh, let me stay here more." You're like, "What a real."
Mhm.
And then you take a
Yeah.
toy and you come and they are inventing their own thing. They are like, they are in their own world. That
Mhm.
worked. That is still working. She doesn't know that there are so many things that is happening in her life. She doesn't know that I'm working from underground. So sometimes you have to do that.
Okay. So
That is why I
so
wanted to
basically,
contribute. I wanted to contribute, but I
no.
was studying somewhere when we started and we're saying that regrets or trauma from something. I wasn't really
The
listening. I
trauma
was
side of it.
listening. Look at what we went through in Ghana. In Ghana, it was about survival. So if your mom is spanking you or your dad is spanking you, it's for survival. When you cross the street, I told you not to cross the street. God willing, nothing happened to you. If I don't put the fear of God in